If you are an OnlyFans creator, congratulations, you are self-employed. And in this video, I'm going to explain how United States income taxes work for self-employed people like OnlyFans creators. A lot of this will apply to content creators of other types, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, and things, but I'm going to focus on OnlyFans for the purposes of this video. In contrast to a typical day job where you are the employee of a company and you receive a W-2 form at the end of the year, as a OnlyFans creator, you are self-employed. Other terms that you'll hear is sole proprietor, that means a single owner of a small business, and you are an independent contractor. So what that refers to is the fact that OnlyFans is paying you, but not as an employee, as a contractor who owns your own small business. And you will receive a 1099 form at the end of the year. As an employee of a regular job, your employer will withhold taxes for you throughout the year. If you look at your paycheck from your day job, you'll see all these taxes are taken out. And your W-2 at the end of the year, that form, shows you not only how much money you made, but also how much you've already had withheld in taxes, the taxes that you've effectively already paid. As an independent contractor, your 1099 will list how much OnlyFans paid you, but they're not going to withhold any taxes for you. So you're responsible for paying all of your taxes on your OnlyFans income in April of the following year. So this 1099 that you'll receive in 2020 is called a 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation. Again, reminding you, you're not an employee of OnlyFans, you are a business owner. Box 1 on this form will list your total income, the total amount of money that OnlyFans paid you or distributed to you throughout the year. But you're not taxed on that amount. As a business, you have a certain amount of income, but you might also have a certain amount of expenses. You are only taxed on the difference, the actual profit that you made in your OnlyFans business. And the amount of tax you owe at the end of the year is based on this net profit. At minimum, it'll be 15.3% of that net profit you made. Depending on how much money you make, both in your OnlyFans business and anything else you do, if you have a day job in addition, you might owe up to 48% if you make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. This comes back to the fact that in America, the more money you make, the higher percentage of your money you owe taxes. So as one example, if you're an OnlyFans creator and that's your only source of income in a year and you make just $10,000, you will only owe 15% of that money. If you make $250,000 a year or more, you might owe upwards of 50% of your income. So speaking of that, how much money do you have to make in order to owe taxes or to even have to file your tax return? Well, there's a couple simple rules to check. First of all, is this amount of net profit that you made from OnlyFans $400 or more? If so, then you must file a tax return and report your OnlyFans income, your small business income. Even if you make less than $400, but you have $12,400 or more in other income from another job, and say you only make $50 from OnlyFans, you are still officially required to report that OnlyFans income. However, OnlyFans may not send you a 1099 if you make less than $600. And whenever OnlyFans sends you a copy of your 1099 telling you how much they paid you, you can trust they are also sending a copy to the IRS. So the IRS will know that you made money from OnlyFans. So if you make at least $600, OnlyFans will definitely send you and the IRS a 1099. And you do not want to mess with the IRS. So make sure you file your taxes. So when I showed this diagram, it obviously makes sense that the more expenses you claim, the less profit you have, and the less you'll be taxed on. So what types of expenses are reasonable to claim? Well, the IRS has a test, and they expect all expenses for a small business to be both ordinary and necessary for the type of business you're conducting. So for most OnlyFans content creators, these might be things like the cost of your camera, the cost of your microphone, any lights or green screen, any contract work if you pay someone to edit your videos or do graphic design. If you use your cell phone or internet, you may be able to deduct a portion of your internet bill. If you wear certain clothing just for your business as an OnlyFans creator that you're not using for your personal use, that could be deductible, and marketing or website expenses. Now, for some of these expenses, like a fraction of your cell phone bill or internet bill, or even a camera, you can only deduct the percentage of your use of that item that's for your business. And that gets a little complicated on how to calculate that. But if you use your internet for personal use and for your business, you can only deduct an appropriate proportion that makes sense for the fraction of your use of it that goes towards the business. So let's get into the nitty-gritty details of exactly how you file a tax return. Most of you will probably use tax software like TurboTax or Free Tax USA to do your taxes. And if you do that, you won't be directly filling out your tax form like I'm showing you here. But I still think it's useful to understand that when you use a tax preparation service, behind the scenes, they're filling out the actual tax forms for you. So let's quickly and simply walk through what the tax forms look like. This is a form called Schedule C, which is named Profit or Loss from Business, Sole Proprietorship. So this is the form you fill out to show the IRS how much profit you made and what you'll be taxed on. And although it looks messy and complicated, really it has one section called Income, where you will put the amount that OnlyFans paid you on your 1099. Has another section called Expenses, where you can deduct all of those expenses I told you about. And then you really take your income minus your expenses to get your net profit. Let's take an example, is $10,000. So this whole form, Schedule C, is used to calculate your net profit. But then that number, your net profit, just that number goes onto your main tax return. It's complicated, but it basically goes on one line on a form called Schedule 1, and then from there, it goes to your main 1040 tax return. It's just one little item that was calculated on Schedule C. And that will pass through and affect the calculations on how much tax you owe. So that's what's going on behind the scenes if you fill out your taxes using tax preparation software as a self-employed person. Let's talk about how and when you pay your taxes. Imagine you're making money from OnlyFans throughout January all the way through December for the current year. And the size of these green boxes represents those monthly payments or periodic payments that OnlyFans is paying you. As you might know, April of the following year is when your tax return is due. So if this is 2020, you prepare your 2020 tax return in April of 2021, and you owe all the taxes for that year at that time. So here's the time when you're making the income, here's the time when you owe your taxes. If this was a regular day job, you don't wait until April of the following year to pay all your taxes. In fact, you have taxes withheld from your paychecks throughout all the years. And when you file your tax return at the end of the year, it's only to settle up if you owe a little bit more than you had withheld through the whole year. Or in fact, if you withheld too much, as most people do, you actually get a little refund. So I could color this green, representing the amount you'll get back if you over withheld. But when you're self-employed, you don't have any taxes withheld. So you'll owe all your taxes at the end of the year. But the IRS doesn't like that. They want to get paid. They want your tax money throughout the year instead of having to wait till April the following year. So if you make enough that you're going to owe enough in taxes, you might actually have to file quarterly payments. And that's where instead of paying all your taxes in April, you pay a little bit of taxes each of 4 quarters throughout the year. April, June, September, and January. And then you settle up when you file your tax return, but this is just going to be a small refund or a small amount owed. So quarterly payments sounds complicated, and you must be wondering, can I wait? Can I be self-employed and wait until I file my tax return to pay all my taxes? Or must I pay quarterly payments throughout the year? So there's some simple checks you can do to determine if you need to pay quarterly payments. As long as one of these following points is true, you don't have to make quarterly payments. The first one, and most common, is if this amount of taxes you're going to owe is less than $1,000, it's okay to wait until the end of the year. Now, the other two mostly apply to OnlyFans creators who also have a day job where you have normal taxes withheld out of your paycheck. So imagine you have both this normal day job with taxes withheld and your self-employment job at OnlyFans. This second bullet point says that as long as you have had at least 90% of your total tax bill withheld throughout the year from your day job, even if you owe a little bit more taxes at the end of the year, then it's okay to not do quarterly payments. And likewise, as long as you withheld from your day job at least as much as your total tax bill was last year, again, you don't have to file quarterly payments. So this is the best trick for someone who's making money on OnlyFans and has a day job, is you can actually work with your day job employer to withhold a little bit more money. So as long as your day job withholds a little bit more money to account for the taxes you'll owe from your self-employment income, it's all gravy. To do that, tell your day job employer you'd like to modify your W-4. That's the form used to determine how much they withhold from your paychecks. I want to really quickly go through some other important factors. Everything we talked about is for federal income taxes. Many states have their own income tax, which will tax self-employed individuals, independent contractors like yourself, in just about the same way, and you'll calculate it basically the same way as you do for your federal income taxes. Point number 2 is don't forget to include other income. Your 1099 tells you how much income OnlyFans paid you. But if you have other income from donations, tips, people Venmoing you or something like that, that is officially business income as well, and you need to keep records of it and report that income. The third item is it possible, if you are a dependent or you still live with your parents or your parents do your taxes, to keep your OnlyFans income private from your parents? Unfortunately, the only way to keep it private is for you to do your taxes yourself. Now, you can always file your own tax return, even if you're still a dependent. Many people who are dependents, their parents will just prepare their tax return for them and have you sign it. But whether you're dependent or not, you have a right to prepare your own tax return, keep it to yourself, and mail it in. You could use TurboTax, you could use an accountant, you can do it yourself. If you're young, if you're 19 and you're a dependent and your parents have always done your taxes, that might be a little suspicious and you're gonna have to deal with that. But as long as you prepare your own tax return and send it in, your parents might later say, all right, time to do your taxes. You can say, I've already done them. You'll have to figure out how to explain why, but as long as you prepare your own tax return, you are always able to keep that private from your parents. If you still live with your parents, OnlyFans will probably send your 1099 to the address you specified on your OnlyFans account on the W-9 form. If you can't watch the mailbox like a hawk, you might want to pay for a post office box and use that address as your business address so that OnlyFans sends your 1099 to a PO box. That'll cost a little money, but that's also an expense you can deduct. But it will ensure that your parents don't get your 1099 out of your mail. I oversimplified a little bit when I showed Schedule C. This $10,000 that you make from OnlyFans is not only subject to your regular income tax, it's also subject to something called self-employment tax. And this is basically a tax to fund Social Security and Medicare, which if you had a day job, your employer and you pay into as well. But that really represents this 15.3% floor. That's the self-employment tax that you're gonna owe no matter what. Any tax on top of that, if you make enough, is your regular income tax.